involved at the time and to research the story. And he spent the best part of 2 years really talking to people, both in London and in Wales. And obviously we gained access to all our, well, we'd actually deposited all our minutes and photographs and paperwork and all the rest of it within the People's History Museum. So he went and looked at all of that sort of stuff. But basically he was clear from the start that this was going to be a kind of, it wasn't a documentary, it was going to be fictionalised, it was going to be dramatised, it was going to merge people to make characters and even invent a few new characters. And he just went on and did that. But during that 2-year period when he was talking to us, I think we grew to trust him. So by the time he said, you know, can we use your names? We'll give you £1 to use your name. I mean, actually, we didn't get £1. What we got was a contract to sign saying that we had £1. Nominal £1. And then he basically developed the screenplay and then touted it around and ended up taking it to Cameron McCracken, managing director of Pathé Films. And he read through the screenplay and basically said, I made the Iron Lady, I need to make amends.
From our point of view, you know, we kept up the contacts because one of the things that puzzles me about the film is when people keep saying to me, well, this was such a hidden story. You know, we didn't know about this. But we did know about it in the Valley. We did know about it in certain communities. Because if you have been associated with our miners portal, it was such a big part of our history. LGSM became the biggest single dominating group who consistently never missed a week. You know, during the strike, after they trained with us, after the trade unions, who obviously had an awful lot more money to spend when you were talking about unions like Solgat and the print unions, LGSM was the biggest single, you know, donating group we had. So their support was really important, you know, morale-wise, financially. Buying the van just totally changed our lives. It changed the lives of the women because we could actually go other places. We had the freedom to move out of our valleys, and that van travelled up and down the South Wales mining valleys, garnering jokes like you saw there. You know, and our favourite trick was to be at a traffic light, and people, you'd see them doing things on pavements, and then Edwina couldn't drive, neither could I, so Edwina would wind the window down, another sort of collie, and she would stick out there and go, "Have you right, Ducky?" And you'd see people going, "Oh, it's fine." You know, we were challenging all the time.
I have to say that what we gave them was a plain red van. That's what we delivered. We went down a few weeks later and there was the van on the side of it. And apparently there'd been a discussion about it, and the women had insisted on putting the big triangle and donating a letter to the miners, even though they were warned by the men that it would knock 200 quid off the van.
So we didn't care, because we felt that it was such a statement, you know, that was liberation. And when we went to places, because you saw still the enemy within this morning, and you heard about the struggle and what it was like daily life, and you know. And for the first time ever, we were thinking about what other oppressed people and groups would be, you know. And at this point, we were just at the beginning of the HIV, the whole issue about AIDS, were we? Now, there's been some criticism of the film because it talks about the posters which didn't actually come into effect in 1987, but both Matthew and Stephen felt it was very important because it was such a seminal part of that whole development of the history of HIV, because we spent a lot of time doing mourning friends.
Well, that's right, yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that really comes across in the film is just how much fun we had. But also, I think for us, looking back, one of the reasons it kind of stands out as just so much fun is precisely because what followed afterwards was no fun at all, where we spent, you know, the best part of a decade burying people and nursing sick people and And I think in some ways that kind of cemented our relationship because, you know, our friends from 8485 were the people who were visiting people in hospital, who were coming to the funerals and things with us. And
that was very hard for us as communities because we came from communities that were very narrow and didn't have this great experience. You know, the person my heart sings out to every time he's finished the show is Cliff. Can you imagine what life was like for Cliff? Cliff was born today. Cliff's life would have been totally different. Cliff would have never been expected to go underground at 15. He would have had the opportunity of going to school, staying on in school, studying poetry, and he was a marvellous dramatic recitation. He could do all the ones, you know, the ones where the deck of cards and the one, oh chef, that was his favourite. The older ones, the ones that were no oh chef. And then his other one, you know, the one about visiting the lad who got eaten by the lion. Albert, you know. And he could do miles of this stuff. He loved to take photographs.
yeah, he's a brilliant photographer.
Wonderful. And his family destroyed everything when he died. They literally burnt everything. Because they didn't understand that it was a valuable resource, that he had this talent. But that's what young men did, Danny. And we all knew, and I love that part of the film where, you know, the characters said, well, nobody asked. And that was where we let ourselves down as a community in legalism. Nobody asked. We knew that there were gay men and lesbian women, but nobody ever asked the question. Because if you didn't ask, you wouldn't have to deal with the answer. You know, so people sort of pretended, and he was Cliff, you know, and a guy who had lived a very sheltered life, had been very narrow, and, you know, going to London with Cliff was like, you know, real eye-opener. And when people found out, and one of the stories that didn't make it to the cutting room, well, it's ended up in the cutting room, was when we were all in the van outside going to pick Cliff up. And there was a car parked outside there, and I turned to Carol, who was another very dear colleague, who's an amalgamation of the Gwen character. You know, and I say to Carol, quite innocently, gosh, how dividend is in Cliff's again? Gosh, I said, what did I say?
Must be paying an awful lot of insurance.
Not my greatest moment there. Because, you know, it wasn't talked about. The difference now today is that, and I met an inspirational young woman about a month ago, and she was telling me that she watched the film and loved the film as a gay, you know, as a lesbian woman living in Wales today. A really good, you know, job, really influential with young people. And she said she had told her mother 10 years ago, come out to her mother, and that had been difficult, but, you know, it was, okay, it was great, went well. And she said, what if I'd been telling my mother in 1984? How different would it have been? You know, what would have been, my mother was great, and I'm sure my mother would have been wonderful. But I was still coming across when, after uni, I go off into the wide world of work, you know, it's like, I'm still coming across people in the early 90s who were talking about gay people in a way that was absolutely horrific. You know, being ashamed that their children were homosexual or lesbian. Talking about gay people in a very derogatory way. Of course, we always stood up, we always said, no, that's not true. And it was still commonplace, it was still acceptable. And I think, you know, when I look back on when we had the introduction of civil partnerships, and we went through the school period, not in Westminster, because, believe it or not, there was cross-party support, even amongst my conservative colleagues and liberal, you know, because everybody knew that we were going to have to put this right, that we were going to have to make this fair for gay couples. And I remember just having those horrific, horrible letters from local churches. I mean violent. And my sister was gay. And I used to bleed for Rob. I used to think, oh, I'm so ashamed you've got to read this. And people felt that it was quite alright to write those sort of things. And today, nobody comes to my surgeries and says, it's wrong to be gay, it's wrong to be black, it's wrong to be from that. But they do come and talk to me like that. But it's immigrants, benefit claimants, and travellers. I don't know why, but it's perfectly right to talk about travellers in whichever way. They have absolutely no on-off button, no volume control. And it worries me because we have a whole section of society that is being marginalised. And we saw what marginalisation did during the strike. We were the enemy within. We were all of us together in this. And the great thing is that we found each other, didn't we? And it was the women who led on that. Because I'm going to be honest, it wasn't a phone call, it was a letter. It was a letter. And the letter was read out in our supporting meeting.
I remember we sent 2 letters. I talked to Kerry last week, and he'd been talking to
a Lord Secretary.
A Lord Secretary, another Lord who received a letter from us, thought it was a joke, and shoved it in the bin. I mean, their first reaction was to laugh, I think.
Yeah, and it wasn't nasty laughter or anything, but it was, and I never forget, one of the writers says on the watch actually, and he said, well, yes, we had the debate, and well, come on, they collected this money for us, whoever they are, it behooves us now to say thank you, say something, because we were very formal. In the ways of trade unions and the like. You activists there will recognise this. You have to do it properly, minute it properly. You would send letters, twin formal, signed agreements. So we have this prescribed system. So we said, yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll send something off. And David and as you saw in the film, went off and with a couple of other people. And then the rest is history. But we done all of this in the meeting, and at the end we go, we'll invite them down to stay with us now, just like we did with every other group, should there be any differently. And there was this silent thought, I think, with a hand in the head. Does this mean we'll have to see men dancing with each other? And we're like, what are you talking about? Isloy, and I have an abiding memory of Isloy. His nickname was Blue, because he called everybody Blue. So you can talk to him and go, right, Blue? And Blue, anything all right? It saved him having to learn people's names. So his nickname was Blue. I remember being on a demonstration outside a miner, we only halved children back in this area. That was right towards the end of the strike. And we were outside one of their houses having a sort of silent village. And they'd agreed, the police had agreed that the lodge could go in and speak to him. So that Blue goes up the path and somebody shouts, for Christ's sake, don't send Blue in there, he hasn't won a compensation case yet. Because of this, that you went through. So we had laughter, we had fun, even in the most sort of inspiring years. But that bit about the dancing, and our response was, well, you've been watching women dance for years together. While the men propped the bar up, all the women danced around their handbags. Because that's what you did in the Valleys clubs.
Well, yeah, we chose Still the Enemy Within and Pride because they complement each other so well. And in the commemoration of the miners' strike, it means something very personal to probably everybody in this room. Like, I remember my mum in the 80s, she said she was a butcher and she took sausage sandwiches up to the picket line every day in Abersucket. But that's why we chose the 2, and that's why we've got Sean and Gethin along. Does anyone have any questions?
I thought it was very interesting. Our experience was very different to the Yorkshire mining. I went to Nottingham extensively during the strike, and it really, really was different to any other country. I can't tell you how different it was. You saw the adverts, the British, the NCB adverts, be a real miner. Come and work in the mining industry in the future. But in Nottingham, that's where those men went to work. So nobody, I never met a miner in Nottingham, that time I was there, was actually a Nottingham person. I met miners who were working in Nottingham from Scotland, from Wales, from Kent, from your Somerset coalfields, because in 72 and 74 we had a Somerset coalfield. We had coalfields in places like Coalford, in the Forest of Dean. Those have gone in my lifetime, my father's lifetime in the colliery. So we were extremely, amused by Nottingham, because they didn't seem to have the response that we had. And then when I dug a little bit deeper, they lived on these massive purpose-built estates. The older of you will remember key housing. Key housing was a system where local authority would provide housing for key workers who would be coming to work in a region to live there in a particular industry. So there were these purpose-built housing estates, dotted here, there and everywhere, and very few people had any roots. They were creating roots, but they'd come in the late 60s, in the late 70s to work there. And I remember sort of digging a little bit deeper about why didn't we feel about things like we felt with it. We had been on a go slow. 1981, Arthur Scargill was elected, and I've been voted for him quite happily, we were 100% behind Arthur. And in 82, we had 6 collieries, the closure of 6 collieries in Wales. Only one area came out on strike with us, Yorkshire. Every other area in Britain said, very nice, to get us out on a national strike. So that's where we have the whole history of the ballot. There was a ballot taken to go back and give a ballot to give the power to the executive if at a future date more colonies were closed, and we were in that eternal argument about the ballot. And we've been on a go slow for 2 years. Go slow means no overtime for 2 years. So everybody was just doing the basic 4 days a week and no overtime. And so we'd already cut back to the bone in our households, all the extras had gone because we were on basic pay. I was meeting apprentices, 17, 18, 19 years of age in Nottingham, who were on over £400 a week in the 1980s, because they were coaling at a phenomenal rate. The film touches upon it, the production of coal. It was easy coal to mine. They had big, massive headings. South Wales has always been tricky. There's always been small seams, valuable seams, but tricky to work. We were talking about this earlier, Kerry and I, but Martin was working in 3'6" and 2'10", and seams of 34 inches, 40 inches, where he literally, to repair the coal cutting machines, he would have to lie on his side, wiggle in, crawl in on his knees, repair the machinery, and the cutters would be going along these seams. In collieries in Nottinghamshire, big 5', 6" seams with 10 foot, you could drive vehicles down there, drive big headings. So very different mining. So we felt very let down by Nottingham, but Nottingham was so different. They didn't have those ties that we had. And I one day I was walking and someone came up to me and said, "You Matty Griffiths' daughter?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh, this is good, isn't it?" And this is somebody in Nottingham. She'd married a miner and they'd gone to Nottingham to live. So it just proved that people from all over the country, not from Nottingham, they were easy because they didn't have the roots and they didn't have the feelings that we had.
We have a question.
I want to make some comments actually. I was born in Hucknall in Nottinghamshire. I moved away when I was very young, as you can probably tell from my accent. During the strike, my mother, as it happened, the mine support group she was working in became twinned with Hucknall. I'd just like to make a point that there were a small number, I accept there were a small number of Nottinghamshire folk that stayed true to the NUM when we were on strike. And they had a terrible time when they were driven back to work. When they went to work, they were all kept apart. They were all given UGM minders to look after and make sure they did not associate, did not organise at all. So I think it's important to remember that there were some people that were solid.
I apologise for that because they were, but I have to say this shows the extent of the generosity of the NUM. We recently did a work in St Kenny Colliery, which is one of the last 3 deep mines in the UK. one of the collieries is under threat in that area, is an EDM colliery. And those lads came to the same kind of colony event, and nobody ostracised them. Nobody said they were welcome, because what we said is, we're all in this together. You know, the NUM is big enough and generous enough. You know, we fight on your behalf as well, even though the UVM has just given up the ghost up there. And I was really proud of our union then, because it is our union, isn't it? You know, we think of it as our union. We were kept out of it a little bit. They never recognised the women that they should. But I apologise for that, because they were. I do so.
There was another question in the back.
Oh yeah, I went to a talk once given by Neil Kinnock, and I thought it quite interesting because he was clearly extremely disapproving of Thatcher. But what I found quite interesting was that he was also very, very critical of Arthur Scargill. And his opinion, sort of a brief synopsis at the end, is that he felt that Scargill was as damaging to the miners' union as Thatcher had been. And he kept on labouring about the point that the national ballot, which was brought up in the film this morning, he felt it should have been done, not necessarily as dictated to by Nicholas Ridley or whatever, but he did feel that if it had been shown to be more democratically transparent, he felt that the miners would have had a much better case to argue with their behaviour. I'm just wondering what do you think about Kinnock's comment on Scargill?
It's difficult, I mean, because I hear Neil on so many fronts, but on this one we've always had to agree to disagree, because we saw Arthur Scargill as somebody who came in there. I first heard Scargill speak in the late 70s with my dad. My dad said to me, "Come here, this young guy from Yorkshire. He's bloody brilliant. He's the future of the union." And that's what Arthur Scargill had. He had the men, and he had their faith. Whatever, you know, transpired later, he had their faith. And I will just repeat to you what happened after Margaret Thatcher introduced the re-election of members every year. Remember, we had to go through a ballot where trade union leaders have to go up for a ballot because we're part of the new trade union laws. And Arthur Scargill had to compete, and they put the Patsy candidate up against him. 69% of South Wales miners voted for Arthur Scargill. 61% of the Scottish miners voted for Scargill. 64% of miners in other regions voted for Scargill. So 2/3 of them, you know, more than maybe 2/3 of them were all totally convinced after the strike that Arthur Scargill was the guy for them. So, you know, he did have a huge amount of support. The ballot, you know, was a bit of a flinch, because there had been a ballot. The ballot was held in 82, and it was a specific, the question was, if at any future time it is necessary to take action, do you give the union mandate to do that? And they all voted yes. And that's what they reprised, because when the next wave of closures came, the 82 closures, the 84, Cottonwood, etc., you know, and it was spreading out to South Wales, and we did an area pick. 6 miners went in South Wales, and we did an area pick. Now, what I would say to you, I spent a whole year praying for a national strike. I spent a whole year praying for a national strike, because we knew that if we let the miners, if we had to stand alone, yeah, all the money in the world and all the support in the world could be there to keep us out on strike. But what we needed was to stop coal going into power stations. And, you know, eventually, TG members drove across picket lines. We've seen it every year. You know, Margaret Thatcher was very, very successful at dividing and ruling, and the ballot question was another divide and rule device, which gave people, you know, a reason or an excuse. So it was very, very difficult. We never lost it. I mean, I told Arthur Scargill in his face what I think of it. I told him straight that it was worth the money we were paying him. I think he should be working for a policeman's wages. But, you know, he was of his time, and at that time, what we needed was somebody like him, and that's what we need. I urge any of you to go and read Beverly Skaggs' research. Beverly Skaggs is a social historian in Goldsmiths, is it, in London? And she's done an awful lot of research into the plans that Margaret, after the 30-year rule, now all this information has come back up the public domain. As early as 1977, the Tory government had plans to tackle the NUM. They spent a whole year denying that they had a plan to shut pits. And Arthur Scargill always said that he'd had sight of that list, that he hadn't been allowed to keep the list, and that there were up to 70 pits on that list. And, you know, that's what transpired. And I think if more people had taken notice then, we saw the demise of a massive industry. And most people just look back and believed that we didn't need coal anymore. We tried telling that to the power stations, that this year is still burning coal.
40% of our energy needs are still met by burning coal. As Sean said, we've got 3 deep mines left in the United Kingdom, all of them under budget. So it was really important for LGSM to get involved in that campaign as well. We were pleased that the NUM was so keen to have us involved.
Yes, yes, and a wonderful, wonderful response there. But I think that, you know, the industry has changed so much, isn't it? It's in private hands now. We haven't got a national coal board, a British coal. I'm watching McGregor. I find it very difficult to watch McGregor. I find it very, very difficult to watch McGregor. You know, a man imported into, it's all part of the plan. But we could have cleaned coal up. We could have introduced a better energy mix. We could have planned for the future, but we didn't. I tell you what, if we had a Welsh Assembly, then decisions that were made at that time. I firmly believe that the Welsh Assembly is one of the outcomes of the mining strike. What we learned during that period was we couldn't leave it up to London to decide things for us, that we had to have Welsh decisions made in Wales, just like Scotland has Scottish decisions made in Scotland. And I think that what's happened after the Scottish referendum is that we will see more powers. But we could have planned. Nobody said that we would have to keep all the pits open, because we knew that economically that wouldn't work, but we could have had a better plan, and that's the sadness for us, that we could have planned better, that we could have worked more collectively, and it wasn't to be. And I still can't say the word lost, choking on it.
Anyone else?
I have something about the film. I suppose, you know, the nasty character who sold the stories based on a real person.
Not really, she's an amalgamation of lots of little things, really niggly little things. But as people said, you know, you've got to really have a nasty person who's the focus, haven't you?
Yeah. She was giving her son like you were character and Mark, given that they were, I thought, well, if she was real, how did she actually hold her head up there after the strike finished? You know,
Well, I think, you know, there were little comments like, nothing that was horrible or nasty, but we touched on the HIV thing, haven't we? You know, all of a sudden the newspapers were full of HIV, you know. My daughter, who was 5, 6, you know, equated 78 word gay. Does that mean people that we love are going to die? Because they're gay. And it was difficult times for people, and I think it's difficult for young people today. I found one of the leaflets in all my pining thing. I found the leaflet that had come. Every household in Britain received that leaflet. You know, that wasn't, you know, or a story. It happened. It came through a letterbox, and it was sort of like, hey, whoa, what's this? I speak a lot to young people. And when I talk about things like the campaign around safe sex and at the time, they have no idea. They have absolutely no idea. It's great that they don't, because they're obviously living much more open lives than we would have been able to live. But it's the society moved on. But I think there were people, people say things like, you should win a child, you won't get it.
Talking about the character, I mean, the actress who plays that, Lisa, she is absolutely lovely. She's Welsh, and I think she's from Cardiff, she is. Yeah. And she's really, really nice. She was walking down Clapham High Street about 5 weeks ago, and 2 people came up to her and started having a go. 1977, I think, but we've never been partners. He was with Nigel in 1984.
Next weekend. We didn't all live in the same street. My husband is one of the most mild-mannered people you've ever met. You know, would never sort of lay hand on anybody.
And the idea of Shah making soup for anybody.
Not even the fish fingers. He would pay me not to cook. He would pay me not to cook. Martin is fond of saying that we've been married from a very young age, as you know, you can imagine. Martin says he had to learn to cook. It's a matter of survival. So Martin's been married a week and he said, move off. So I do this. But no, and there were little things, isn't it? Things like the pit wasn't at the bottom of the street. You know, because all of the men in our community had to travel long distances and they worked in a way, so they would have worked, everybody knows would have worked in one of 5 or 6 pits. Tower, Abernant, Abercurgle, Blaenant, Treforgan and Auchenhydra. So they would have spread the buses would be, there would be umpteen buses up and down the valleys during the morning and the night, different shifts. And I think the biggest shock for us was that we'd always been taught that the police could be trusted. You know, I came from a very law-abiding family where if you got lost, you asked the policeman the way, and we had a great faith in the police. Well, that was destroyed during the strike, and I don't think we ever got it back. And I think we saw that very, very graphically during the Belgian disaster, when the police had, you know, those awful jobs of checking out the stories and what had happened. They were telling me, the local police, how difficult it was to get the trust of the local community. I just looked at the chief super and I said, well, what do you expect? You know, we have got very long memories, and he said they had to work really hard to get people to trust them, and that was a direct legacy. My children were in school with all sorts of different, you know, mining families, etc. And the other children, Roger's past, the rate, he had little girls whose dad was a policeman, and he came home one evening and he ran upstairs, boom, 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 and I was like, Mum, bring my batteries, bring my batteries. What do you mean batteries? So I got to put batteries, he said, in Welsh, in my torch. So I got batteries out of the kitchen drawer and I said, right, well, we're going to have power cuts. So and so says that half the Scargill is going to make the lights go out. So you're always talking on the square. British Bulldogs, does anybody know British Bulldogs, a game on the square? It was pickets and police. This is the kids, the school had to put a stop to pickets and police being played, you know, with British Bulldogs. Then there was the time when I took the children on a day trip to Putin, you know, and my mother said, she told the children, if you get lost, you must find a policeman, Rowena 5. What? That's the scaffolding? My mother said, really think, you know, it's politicisation. But this is what they were seeing every day in their lives. And, you know, so our communities changed. You know, we had one local young policeman who was an absolute sweetheart. I said, my heart's to bleed for him, because his dad and his older brother were on strike. And he was in the police force. And, you know, and people were going to go, Dad, Roddy, Pammy Tim Trini, and so he'd stand there literally in tears, you know, his dad and his brother that side of the big headline, and local women shouting at him, you know, because he was, and he couldn't realistically, now we realise he couldn't sort of say, I'd like to be excused for picking up that, I'd like to go home. He couldn't, he had to do his job. But at that time, there was no way. You're either with us or you're against us. You're either left and you're right, or you're right and you're wrong. And, you know, now, in like 20 years, we can see a lot more difference. But I still say, I was talking to some producers on about television, and they were saying that they would really like to do something along the coal house. Does anybody remember coal house? And they thought that they could do 1984. And we all went, because I think, you know, I honestly believe this. That maybe in another generation, maybe another 25, 30 years, but not now. Because there are still people who don't talk to people, who lost their jobs, never worked again. There are still people who ended up, you know, with court records. My husband ended up with a court record and was banned from every picket line in Britain. And his transgression, he stepped off the pavement outside Abernant Colliery. And if you stepped off the pavement, you were off sidewalk onto public land where you could be arrested. And that's what happened every morning. And
So just made up, rule just made up for the school.
No. They said that if you stepped off the pavement, you were liable for arrest. So with everybody pushing and shoving from behind. So you things like that. And he did. He fell off because the girls were pushing behind him. And his whole statement was, I was not swearing. Why did you say that, Mark? Well, I had nothing else to say. I tried to say that he'd been aggressive, but I was not swearing. And for that, he was banned on every... This is a lad who's never been in trouble with the police, never had a police record, found over to the police, and it was getting to the point he needed to be forward on his court cases. So the women had to step up to the plate, because we could get arrested. Without losing our jobs, we could be passed off by the police and forces by the police, and not processing us, doing any money. But the men could lose their jobs. So there's lots of things like that going on, which are still naive in the community, and I think they will be the next generation who will forget about those little things. My kids won't. My kids are in their 30s, they can be brought up on this. But maybe their children won't feel the way we feel about it. That'd be a good thing.
Talking of pavements, the film shows us collecting outside Gethin Roberts, which is where we did most of our kind of street collecting. We did lots and pubs and pubs and stuff. But most of our street collecting was done in Gethin Roberts, and that's because there was an area of about 4 foot outside their lights. And there was kind of road brass dots on to show where their land stopped from the pavement started. So as long as we stayed on the right side of that line, we were on private land and we could collect. And the police were there fairly often. And if you stepped outside and tried to collect, then they made it very clear that you could be arrested. And in fact, we did have a number of people arrested for collecting on the public highway.
I think we, sorry, I think we
I just
got
want to
time
add, just a funny story, about how some people do very well in this, right? In other words, the police were on massive overtime. And I went on a picket line in Lisbon, and it was very exciting. It was very exciting. There was a lot of pushing and shoving, and people calling out, and a lot of laughing, people were worried. But in the main, you know, you felt you were doing something. And on this particular day, I was chest to chest, and it was a good chest. I was chest to chest with this burly policeman. And he said, I'm going on now, he said, after this, he said, I'm going to have, he said, I'm going to have steak for my dinner, he said. And I said, all right, he said, yeah, steak is paid for with my overtime. I said, well, you know what, I said, we'll order a tin of corned beef, I said. Ha, 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 he said. And I said, you know what, the tin of corned beef has been paid for by people who hate your guts. I didn't say that. And he was a big lad because he managed to corner me and crack me up. So there were, like Gethin said, there were lots of serious times, you know, and the film picks up on some of it. But there was an awful lot of fun, wasn't there?
Did anyone else have one last question? Let's see a hand at the back, David.
Yeah, that's mine. Shan's told us a lot about how the events portrayed in the film had an impact on her life, and it was a life-changing experience. I just wanted to ask Gethin how it changed his life.
Well, certainly it's changed the last 12 months. At the end of the strike, obviously, the things that happened to us then were fairly awful. We had a period of 10 years when the AIDS crisis was really kind of hitting the community, particularly in London. And I think that kind of took the wind out of everybody's sails in terms of political campaigning. So most of our energy efforts were either looking after people or campaigning around HIV and AIDS. But we maintained community. I mean, Shannon and I have been friends for 30 years. We kept in touch with Cliff until he died. Various of us kept in touch with different people. So we've always had that kind of friendship, and I think that's been a kind of positive thing for all of us. It's something we've always been really proud of, and kind of the social connections that have been maintained. The film has actually given us an amazing opportunity to do stuff. We were really, really determined to make certain that for us it wasn't just a kind of trip down memory lane, and it gave us an opportunity to do stuff, not just in relation to the issues that we deal with, or even the LGBT issues. Sean mentioned that we currently have a situation where we have communities who are absolutely demonised and vilified in the same way as minors were and lesbian and gay people were. So we've been doing stuff to support migrants. We donated £1,000 to the Movement Against Xenophobia's I Am a Migrant campaign, which will run just before the election, highlighting the scapegoating of migrants. Some of us we're involved in setting up an organisation, Lesbians and Gays Against Islamophobia, which I think is another really important thing for us to work on. We've been raising money for various trade union groups, including some Fire Brigade Union we've been supporting in their struggle around pension rights. We've been supporting striking care workers in Doncaster and in Barking, who have been campaigning for the London living wage. We were really pleased that when the BAFTAs were going on, we were outside with our banner picketing alongside the cleaners and the porters from the Royal Opera House, who again were striking for trade union recognition and also for the London living wage. So that was kind of really great to be there, and we got kind of mentioned inside that we were, as I said, we're outside picketing, which was really nice. And then we got to play with the BAFTA afterwards. So it's kind of had an amazing. Last week I was in Poland. We're hoping to do some screenings. We're making connections. We became aware that there was a group of miners, particularly involved in August 88, which is one of the more kind of leftist trade unions in Poland, who over the last few years have been coming to Warsaw to basically provide protection for feminist and women's marches against the nationalists, and they also turned up to protect the lesbian and gay march against kind of far-right nationalists. So we're hoping to do stuff with them. We're already doing stuff in Turkey with A2SEN. I mentioned that we're supporting this project in Western Turkey, but we're funneling the money, channeling the money through the Lesbian Gay Commission of the Scientific Workers and Teachers Trade Union. So building those connections, and that's helping the Turkish lesbian gay movement to build connections themselves. So certainly the last 12 months have been absolutely extraordinary, and this has been part of kind of the amazing opportunities that we've had. If people are interested, we have a Facebook page, LTSM Pride 2014. So if you want to kind of send a request to join that, we're encouraging lots of people to join it. We're hoping that lots and lots of people, particularly trade unions and trade union banners, will be joining us on the Pride March, the London Pride March, which is 27th of June. We're also leading the Birmingham Pride March, which is the end of May, and we'll be, if anybody's around in Istanbul, we'll be...
I'd like to say a really big thank you to Gethin and Sian.